So chapter 334 of My Hero Academia marks the end of Star and Stripe, America's #1 hero that was introduced about 5 or so chapters ago. Since this is the full end to her character, I feel a few things need to be said about this current situation. As you recall, last week I talked about how Star will definitely be looked at as a plot device by the community because of how little she was actually around in the story. Also, many people in the community saw her death coming before last week's chapter, so many distanced themselves from the character and didn't really grow too attached to her at all, which is honestly sad because of how well written she actually is when you take a step back and think about her character, which leads into why I'm making this video in the first place. I feel like Star's death, to really just put it bluntly, is such wasted potential that it's saddening to me. What I mean by this is how Horikoshi sensei handled the entire character. Even though we knew he might kill off Star, he could have went down many different paths after her death. New Order could have been used to dive into Quark's singularity and manage to gain sentience over a Nomu or a person, since it was ravaging and destroying Quarks within the body, and it could have done something very similar to what, All for One is doing to Shigaraki, which would mean Star would live on in her Quark, and maybe Izuku would still be able to meet her in some shape or form. And we would have that meetup, and the fear that, All for One / Shigaraki has would actually still happen to begin with. Also, it would have given more explanation to what the Nomu actually are, since they are literally walking corpses in the story, and also looking at the arc as a whole, it's actually kind of a pointless arc. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the entire fight between Star and Shigaraki over this last month or so. It's been a blast. Still, we need to look at why this arc started in the first place. It was about the deadline of Shigaraki's completion being closer than the heroes actually thought. It was like 3 days away, I believe, and this was told to us a chapter before Star's fight actually began with Shigaraki. Fast forward to this chapter, and the deadline was extended for another week or maybe even more. Because let's be honest, they don't really know how much damage Shigaraki really obtained in the fight, because Star wiped out a lot of Quarks, and to be fair, we don't even actually know what kind of Quarks she wiped out because it was left very vague, so it's probably Quarks that weren't relatively important in the grand scheme of things. So why did Horikoshi sensei give us a deadline of 3 days just to push it back? Rather pointless when you think about that. Clearly, it's being used as tension, but let's be honest, the tension was already there before Star's appearance, and Shigaraki was a major threat, and the war arc made that very, very clear. In fact, all this arc showed to prove is that Horikoshi-sensei might be backing himself in a corner with how powerful Shigaraki currently is, thus why Star was used as a nerf for Shigaraki. So once again, I will reiterate, the arc is relatively pointless since nobody really thought Shigaraki needed a nerf until we saw him square up with Star, which was a literal deity, basically, of the My Hero Academia universe. We also didn't know about the deadline until really Star appeared. We heard that there would be a whole month, but then when right before Star appeared, it's like, oh, 3 days Shigaraki would be complete. So it's like, wait, what? Came out of nowhere. So would there be any other reason for this arc, perhaps, besides what I just discussed? Well, it's made fundamentally clear now with chapter 334 that international heroes will no longer help out Japan since Star, America's #1 hero, died. So the narrative will shift only onto the Japanese heroes in My Hero Academia, and that's honestly just extremely sad to think about, because it opened up the whole world and could dive into other villains that might even surpass All for One himself, which will leave the door open for My Hero Academia to continue on after Shigaraki / All for One. So closing that door off for writing potential is just truly unfortunate for the readers. Feels like some editor meddling in this arc, in my personal opinion. I have no confirmation of this, so don't take the comment I just said seriously, but I do know editors have had major effects on popular manga in the past, which led to a lot of downfalls or poorly written arcs in manga, and so it's very likely maybe something is going on with Horikoshi Sensei's editor that is really messing with the flow of the manga currently, and why maybe it feels like it currently does. And since I'm on the topic, the pacing of My Hero Academia's manga, has been bonkers recently. It's been obvious for a bit now, but I've tried to mostly ignore it, I'm not gonna lie. However, I don't feel like I really can anymore, especially after chapter 334. With the setup to chapter 334, it seems like Horikoshi Sensei is trying to rush towards the finale. Now, once again, this could be maybe editor meddling, and maybe it's not Horikoshi himself actually trying this, but maybe the editor kind of trying to say, hey, you need to get really quickly to the finale, build it up or whatever. Maybe that's what's going on. If that is indeed the case, I wonder what is really going on behind the scenes. But anyways, all I wanted to say is that I feel like this arc is a great standalone, but easily one of the most useless arcs of the entire story, in my personal honest opinion. I know for a fact I'm going to get a lot of flack for that opinion, but I want to keep it real with you all. I love My Hero Academia so much. One of my favorite manga to read weekly, been reading it every week since chapter 4 released years ago. So seeing this manga have an arc like this hurts me a lot as a fan. Not just as a reviewer, someone that likes to analyze the content, but it really hurts me as a fan. And anyways, I will say, I truly love Star's charisma, especially the skull panel with the quirk fading into nothingness. It was really beautiful, and I do like the symbolic nature of that, and her final lines and all of that. It's great. I do love the chapter, and I do like the arc, but like I said, as an overall arc and what it means for the story, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. All it was there was to give Shigaraki a nerf when he really didn't need one until we got to this arc, and also close off the international heroes to give a reason for that, but once again, I feel like that's just really closing the door for a lot of potential. Overall, it was a good chapter if I ignore the context of what the arc actually meant to the story. But I guess I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed my video, please leave a like. And if you want more of my content to appear in your YouTube feed, then please subscribe. But I love you all and be safe. Chibi out.